The 5th episode of Loki released yesterday, and after doing a breakdown of the episode, we may have a clearer answer towards who the real TVA villain of the show is. There's still many theories going around suggesting multiple candidates, but in this video, I'm going to be breaking down all of these theories and giving you my thoughts on which one is the most likely. This video will also contain spoilers from Loki so far, so if you do happen to be someone who isn't up to date on the series, then I would recommend watching this video after you've seen it. But if you want to watch more videos on all of the Disney Plus Marvel shows coming out in the near future and the upcoming MCU movies, then don't forget to support this video by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into the biggest theories surrounding who could be the Loki villain, which is set to be revealed in episode 6. So the ending of Loki episode 5 gave us a pretty good idea of who is hiding behind the curtain, and the final scene of the episode includes Loki and Sylvie making their way towards a mysterious castle. Now, this instantly got fans wondering what the castle is and what it means for the main villain of the show. Starting with the most likely theory, the episode leads us to believe that the castle seen in the distance is actually Castle Limbo, and Kang the Conqueror will be residing from inside of the giant structure. In the comics, Kang's city base of Chronopolis was depicted as existing outside of time and could exist in a temporal limbo. We essentially saw that with the episode's plotline and location, so it would completely fit the bill for it being Kang's castle. But alongside the most glaring connection, there are also many other clues that point to it being Kang the Conqueror. In the comics, the monstrous Alioth is also known for taking over Kang's dimension, so it would make sense for the castle to be stuck in limbo because of Alioth. This of course makes a lot of sense and fits in line with all the Kang teases we've been seeing throughout the show, and in particular, the introduction of Alioth in episode 5. We are heading into the finale next week, where presumably all will be revealed, but the purpose of the show is clear now, to reveal who created the TVA and why. And in my view, there's only one answer that makes sense. Kang the Conqueror is a Marvel Comics villain that seems like the most likely answer to Loki's central question, and at this point, the evidence has stacked up to be a lot more weighty than WandaVision's Mephisto theories ever were. Along with Castle Limbo and Alioth in episode 5 connecting to Kang, that's just scratching the surface of how many Easter eggs and clues there have been, suggesting he is the main villain. In particular, Ravonna Renslayer is the consort of Kang the Conqueror in the comics. The show informed us this week that apparently Ravonna does not actually know what's going on more than anyone else does, and is now on her own quest to discover who is pulling the strings. This may be true, or it's possible she may be already working for Kang. After all, she has been manipulative in other episodes. Or episode 6 could be the first time they meet, giving the characters potential to grow in the future. On top of this, Kang the Conqueror's main powers include time travel, so what better villain to have created the TVA and prune its timelines into one finale, the path where he comes out on top. I mean, this is the likely option that a nearly immortal time-travelling villain would take. Kang is also not some nebulous MCU concept like Mephisto, because the character has already been cast in the MCU. He's being played by Jonathan Majors and is set to be the main villain of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, due out in 2023 after what should be 2 seasons of Loki, we presume. And since Kang is involved with Ant-Man and the Quantum Realm, that plays into another theory that the TVA exists in the Quantum Realm. This is evidenced by a shot of a city glimpsed in the previous Ant-Man movie, and the fact that time, magic, and superpowers do not work properly in this realm, which is something you can't really say of anywhere but the Quantum Realm. Also, one younger version of Kang in the comics is Iron Lad, a core member of the Young Avengers, a team that Disney Plus has been assembling throughout literally all of its Marvel shows so far, and the ones still to come. I could see Iron Lad being introduced in, say, Season 2 of Loki if the finale reveals Kang is behind everything. And that's not the only Kang and Avengers reference, as the Avengers Tower appears in Episode 5, but this time with a Quang logo in place of the Avengers logo. Quang Enterprises is a company ran by Kang out of the former Avengers Tower in Marvel Comics, and is part of what might be termed the universe's recent history. And to top it all off, there's the reveal of a Sphinx in Episode 5, which once again heavily relates to the story of Kang. There have been many iterations of the character, but the first was Rama-Tut, a pharaoh persona that Nathaniel Richards created after travelling back to ancient Egypt from the 31st century. In that timeline, he also takes on a sort of archaeologist persona, which could explain the shovel they found in the opening episode of the show. So at this point, all the Easter eggs, story, themes, and some of the characters link to Kang the Conqueror. However, the one thing that bothers me about the Kang theory is that if Kang is the main villain of Loki, which many of us currently predict, then what is the show supposed to do with him until Ant-Man arrives? It would be kind of poor if the entire purpose of 2 seasons of Loki is just a setup for the villain arc of the third Ant-Man movie. A villain like Kang controlling the TVA makes sense, and I can see how vanquishing that villain, or at least disrupting his plan, would be the event to trigger the coming multiverse split. But you have to keep in mind that everything the TVA said from the start has been a lie, with the sacred timeline being the only one that matters, and the multiverse being a path to chaos and destruction. With someone like Kang saying that, you can see how he would pick the timeline to cultivate that and serve only his purposes the best. If that's disrupted, multiverses are free to expand and grow, as we know they will for Doctor Strange 2 and Spider-Man 3 at the very least. I just don't know who else it can be besides Kang at this point, but my real question is how Kang is handled and what purpose he will serve in the finale other than just a brief cliffhanger reveal. We'll have to see, but after an episode that was full on Easter eggs, I'm hoping that if it is Kang, we will get a finale that gives us a good reason and successful conclusion to the plot that was outlined within the first few episodes. The other theories out there right now also suggest that the castle scene at the end of episode 5 could belong to Doctor Doom. Many fans started by pointing out that it looks almost identical to Castle Doom from the comic books. However, it does seem unlikely, as right now it's way too early to bring in Doctor Doom himself. It might turn out to be his castle, but since Marvel haven't released an official release year for the Fantastic Four, I don't think that they'd bring in Doctor Doom this early on. Plus, I think that the Kang the Conqueror teasers are much more likely, given his connections to what's unfolding and what we've seen so far, alongside the castle also reflecting his own castle limbo, so that looks a lot more possible that it's going to happen. The only other main theory to mention in regards to the TVA villain is the one floating around that it could be another variant Loki. Now, I think that this makes much more sense than the Doctor Doom theory. I still believe that Kang the Conqueror is what it will turn out to be, but the Loki theory isn't a bad shout by any regards. The question to ask is why exactly is the TVA so hell-bent on pruning all the variant Lokis from each timeline? When Sylvie was snatched away, she was just a kid. Did she really create a Nexus event that warranted her kidnapping, or was this just an excuse to erase her along with the other variants? One possible reason for this is that another Loki variant is actually responsible for everything that's happened so far. After all, Loki in any timeline is the god of mischief. Misdirect comes naturally to them, and Loki has always been thirsty for power. What could be more Loki than trying to take over all of existence? If that's true, then this ultimate Loki may see other versions of themselves as a threat to the TVA's power, not to mention their narcissistic need to be the best at everything they do. There's also something rather fitting about the idea of our Loki confronting his own evil variant, because he's now worlds away from the god who once fought the Avengers in 2012. Episode 5 also goes out of its way to communicate just how powerful Lokis can be when classic Loki gives our Loki and Sylvie the time to defeat Alioth by creating the entirety of the Asgard kingdom using an illusion. And when you combine that kind of godlike power with a trickster's sensibility, it's not hard to imagine that classic Loki, or another Loki entirely, could be pulling all the strings. Again, I think Kang the Conqueror is the most likely based on what we've seen thus far, but I wouldn't disprove this theory as it does make some logical sense. It would also lightly solve the problem of introducing a villain so late, tying up the plot of interrogating the character of Loki throughout this season. We'll have to see, but I do predict that Kang will be revealed and make an appearance, revealing all of his schemes throughout the show. But they were some of the most popular theories on the real Loki villain, alongside my thoughts on who it could actually be. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown, and overall, I'm intrigued to see what happens in the finale next week, which I will be covering here on the channel. I'm also intrigued to hear all of your thoughts on episode 5 and who you think the real villain is, so let me know down below in the comment section, as well as listing your predictions for episode 6. For more content on shows like Loki, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. I am covering and bringing constant updates on all the new Marvel content, so make sure to keep a lookout for whenever I post. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.